Hello and welcome back. I'm Teresa Garcia, or Amehana Arashi, and this is Flash Fiction Fridays. Today I'm reading for you one of the flash fictions that I have written, centering around Hecate, a favorite character of mine to play with, although I don't get to use her very often right now. This story is called A Paleontological Nightmare and was written during the Flash Fiction Month 2019 for one of the challenges. And so, without further ado, A Paleontological Nightmare. All she wanted to do growing up was to be a paleontologist. It didn't matter if she studied dinos, plants, or in the crossover field of geologic paleontology, or even went for a specialization in seabed. The past fascinated her. Now, though, surely this had to be a dream, a nightmare. She stayed pressed into the shadows of the shallow cave, trying to keep her breathing quiet and even. Fear pounded at her chest and temples, begging to be allowed to run free, but she firmly tried to keep mastery. They could smell well, and fear was a prey scent. They were out there somewhere, all fang, feather, and claw. There was no feeling of vindication about the feathers, nor the camouflaging, nor awe when the plumage stood up to display attack colors. Death had a beautiful face, and she did not plan to study any dinosaurs from within their digestive tracts. Jurassic Park was just a movie. How did she wind up here? Another sound that scared her just as much as the pack calls outside came from farther into the small cave. Odd. She'd not realized it had been that much deeper when she hid. Her hackles rose again. Clip, clip, clop, 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 clip, 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 swish, swish, scrape, 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 scrape. It sounded almost like a hoof to her, but she was quite certain that, right now, she was way before the horse. Whatever it was made no effort to hide its noise. A low rumble of a wall, falling at the strike of those hooves, followed after a bit. Eventually, the sounds made deeper into the cave. The calls of the hunting pack came closer, likely drawn by the sounds. Though she longed to leave the cave, she could hear each call coming closer. They were good at scaring their prey out, if there was anyone to ask her. Of course, I was silly. The nearest human was still long to come, and she pushed the nonsensical wish away. Into the cave it was, then. Perhaps if she went deep enough, they would not follow her. Hopefully, whatever was also apparently fleeing the feathered horrors outside was herbivorous. The question, though, was, why did it sound like a horse? And if it did, had it gotten here the same way she did? The end of the passage came at last. Darkness pooled even deeper, oxymoronically shining. A small black horse waited quietly and watched with eyes dimly glowing. She shook her head. That shouldn't be possible. None of what she had been through should have been possible. Andrea sat against the wall where it phosphoresced the least. Living raptors. A horse that was clearly out of its own time that she couldn't place to where in the evolution of Equus. She wasn't even sure how she got into this nightmare. After going to sleep, what woke her was a saurian ripping one end of her trailer open. So, how'd you get here? Bet you'd have a story to tell, too, if you could talk. The eyes glowed brighter, and the horse seemed to grow. Dread settled back over her, though she could not place why. Something heavy weighed on her chest, despite there being nothing visible, and being decidedly not supine. The horse clip-clopped close, and the hair on her arms raised. Ice began to form around her. Didn't you always want to see a dinosaur? I thought you wanted dinosaurs, Andrea. The black horse inhaled deeply and seemed to glow darker with an oil-slick sheen over well-fed muscles. But now you want away from them, even though I went to all the trouble to bring you to the dinosaurs. Ice flowed through her veins now, and she gulped. With each deep, appreciative sniff, she felt a little weaker. Your fear and confusion taste very good. I'm feeding well, as you can see. You fight less than the others. You won't find the way home at this rate. Andrea bolted, making her way back toward the cave entrance. Maybe they were gone. Being alone with this horrible horse was not preferable to dodging dinos. As she ran, the walls seemed to close in, but she chalked that up to the effects of fear with what little of her rational mind functioned. Rounding the last corner, she saw and heard her original pursuer. He, or perhaps she, now battered its way in at her. The rumbling ended the nightmare as a well-placed kick brought down the walls on both. Later, when Andrea and the raptor were unearthed, and a now skeletal horse and much further evolved horse laughed at the chaos it caused in the scientific and religious communities, Hecate could start putting a bit more weight back on. And that, my friends, was a paleontological nightmare, incorporating one of Hecate the Nightmare's adventures. Until next time, happy reading, and remember, if you'd like your poetry or short fiction featured on Flash Fiction Fridays, you can write me at Teresa Amehana Garcia at gmail.com or my publishing company at thgstardragonpublishing at gmail.com to see how you can have your mythic, folkloric, or poetry work featured on this podcast. Have a good night, my friends.